At this point, I'm not sure how much of the left is even real. Yeah, like literally, you see like these sort of fake rallies where there's like hardly any people, and the media will like frame it and like get all 6 people in the frame, but there's like nobody else is there. Like just it doesn't have popular support. But then you learn that like there's hundreds of billions of dollars going to these so-called NGOs. And it's your tax dollars that are funding things that are fundamentally anti-American. In fact, a massive amount of your tax dollars is going to legacy media companies. Directly from the government. Freedom is priceless. People ask me, what's the most surprising thing that you've encountered when you go to DC, when you're in DC? And I said, well, the most surprising thing is the scale of the expenditures and actually how easy it is to, when you add caring and competence where it was absent before, you can actually save billions of dollars, sometimes in an hour. All the sort of federal money going to media companies is what helps explain why the legacy media all says the same thing at the same time. Like, isn't it like, it's like weird, like you put them up where it's like, like when
they're mouthpieces for
the state.
For the state.
Yes.
And that's what we've come to know. It's scary.
And I like that meme because they're always saying like threat to our democracy, but if you just replace democracy with bureaucracy, it makes a lot of sense. No, I mean that whole cancel culture and it's trying to stop freedom of speech and infringe upon people's personal freedoms. They just want state control of what you say. I just like we just need to restore the fundamental elements of what made America great, which is freedom and opportunity. I mean, in Europe they put people in prison for memes. I'm like, that's insane. I really just wanted to do useful things, like basically build products, provide products and services that are good, and I wasn't really like that interested in being political. It just like there was at a certain point no choice. It just shows that they really lack empathy for the average taxpayer who's working hard, paying taxes, and then they say, oh, $1 million doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it matters a lot, people, So what are you talking about? I talked to the president, he's supportive of that, and so it sounds like that's something we're going to do. So as we're finding savings, that's going to translate directly to reductions in tax. So I think it's really important for people to understand that the Biden administration sent any possible money that they could if there was money they could send to facilitate and amplify illegal immigration, they sent it. Okay, they took money from FEMA meant for helping Americans in distress and sent that money to luxury hotels for illegal immigrants in New York. That is an outrage. They actually did that. And not only that, even after the president signed an executive order saying it has to stop, the FEMA, the sort of whatever deep state bureaucrats still pressed send on $80 million last week to go to the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and other places last week. And now they're mad that it got stopped, and they're like trying to sue to have it be restored. A lot of these things, like you don't actually have to assume some grand conspiracy. You just need to look at basic incentives.
Benefits.
So if the incentives, fundamentally, if the probability that an illegal is going to vote Democrat at some point, whether it's cheating, but eventually they can become citizens. But if the probability is like 80, 90%, just look at California, which is supermajority Dem, and then the incentive is to maximize the number of illegals in the country. That is why the Biden administration was pushing to get in as many illegals as possible and spend every dollar possible to get as many, because every one of them is a customer, every one of them is a voter. And so the whole thing was a giant voter importation scam, very obvious. And then moreover, then they actually created the CVP1 border app thing where they were, which is like where they would literally fly people in. The Biden administration was attacking me next level. I mean, the Department of Justice or Injustice under the Biden administration was. I mean, they were suing SpaceX. They're suing SpaceX for not hiring asylum seekers, and we're like, but it's actually illegal for us to hire asylum seekers because rocket technology is covered under ITAR rules, which means it's an advanced weapons technology. And so we can only hire permanent residents or or citizens.
Right.
Like so we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And we said, like, so how can they sue us for not hiring asylum seekers when it's actually illegal for us to do so? But nonetheless, there was a big Department of Justice or Injustice case about this against SpaceX. So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense? And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically. That's the issue. The actions that we're taking with the support of the president and the support of the agencies is what will save Medicare, what will save Social Security. Because if the country goes insolvent, if all the money is just spent on paying interest on debt, there's no money left for anything. So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. The interest payments, the interest on the national debt now exceeds the entire Defense Department budget. A country is no different from a person. Country overspends, country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And obviously that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with your support. So it's really, Doge is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste. And we bring the receipts. So people say, like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. We will make mistakes. We won't be perfect. But when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. But we do need to move quickly if we're to achieve a $1 trillion deficit reduction in financial year 2026. It requires saving $4 billion per day, every day, from now through the end of September. But we can do it, and we will do it. President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever. This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled. I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had, and I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room. I think that email perhaps was misinterpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse? Do you have a pulse and 2 neurons? So if you have a pulse and 2 neurons, you can reply to an email. This is, I think not a high bar, is what I'm saying. Should be, anyone could accomplish this. But what we are trying to get to the bottom of is we think there are a number of people on the government payroll who are dead, which is probably why they can't respond. And some people who are not real people, like they're literally fictional individuals that are collecting paychecks. Well, somebody's collecting paychecks on a fictional individual. So we're just literally trying to figure out, are these people real? Are they alive? And can they write an email? Which I think is a reasonable expectation for the American public would have at least that expectation of someone in the public sector. I guess it was like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also by a phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay, Yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The President is the Commander-in-Chief. I do what the President asks. So, and I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying what did you get done last week? The President said yes, so it did that. And, we got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is not to be capricious or unfair. We want to give people every opportunity to send an email. And the email could simply be, what I'm working on is too sensitive or classified to describe. Like literally just, that would be sufficient. I think this is just common sense. We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well. But if the job is not essential or they're not doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
Is Elon Musk not cutting enough from the government? Kevin O'Leary weighs in on Musk's unprecedented deep dive into Washington's inefficiencies after his bombshell appearance at Trump's first cabinet meeting. While Musk exposes waste and deadweight in the system, O'Leary argues that the cuts must go even deeper, way beyond the comfort zone, to truly fix a broken bureaucracy. But the real question, will the government let Musk continue his work? Or will the forces of the status quo push back? And what happens when he sets his sights on the Pentagon? The battle over government transparency is just getting started.
Part of the problem is Elon is an enigma. He's a unique individual. He has extraordinary executional skills. However, when you hold up the chainsaw, it's a little alarming. And I get it, but I would argue to everybody, understand that this extraordinary individual has an amazing track record of executional skills. Why wouldn't you just let him do his thing? And maybe you just don't like the social media around it, but those images are jarring. I get it. However, the data is interesting. Remember, he has no mandate to execute any of this. He can only find it and then use his network to post it and let the press take it and explain he found this here and found that here. And frankly, as a taxpayer, I want to know more. The other thing I would say that, I've said this a couple of times now, is when you try to fix a broken company or agency or an entity or an organization that's bleeding cash, you've got to cut deeper. You have to cut way past the comfort zone because you only want to do it once. You don't want, it's very difficult to do little cuts over and over again. It's hard to the organization. It's not motivating to people. So you cut deep, really deep, and then you hire back. I've done this countless times. It's not easy, but I'm a little concerned he's not cutting enough. So you go in, and I'm waiting for the Pentagon. That's going to be an interesting one. That's so big. And for decades we said, oh, we can't really look at defense spending because it's opaque and it's for defense. I don't think so. I think the American people want to know where those billions of dollars are going and can we be more efficient? People hate change. They hate disruption. They hate any movement from the status quo, and that's exactly what's happening everywhere. We're starting to question, for the first time in a long time, how government works, what metrics we have to test its success or failure. And these are uncomfortable things for people, but the majority of the population wants to see this happen. They've elected a leader with a majority mandate and a popular vote mandate. And of course, as you start to implement this, you get a lot of friction. But in the private sector, if I can't contact an employee of mine after 2 days, I have to ask, are they dead? Where are they? That's unheard of. And you can't do that. I mean, you need to communicate and you need to get the feedback. So this all started over the weekend regarding emails going out to employees. There's nothing wrong with asking, what are you doing? I do that all day to many, many people. And I expect a response, and the CEOs I work with expect a response. This is all very good, and I understand the angst out there. And I have to tell you, I work with Democrats and Republicans because I'm an investor. I don't have the choice to be partisan in my investment. I have to work with everybody. You mentioned Carville earlier. He's got a different problem. Democrats are, excuse my French, are really pissed off about the $1.5 billion they lost in this election. They want accountability on that too. The large donors are pissed.